Maayong adlaw sa inyong tanan, or good day everyone, in my indigenous language in the Philippines. My name is Patrick, and I'm a Rotary Peace Fellow at Duke University. Today, I'll talk about young people co-creating climate and environmental justice, and how we can leverage their energy through intergenerational collaboration. At the Policy School, we love analyzing problems that sometimes lead to intellectual paralysis. Yet instead of inaction, I'll demonstrate how young people are advancing possibilities. I'll also share my journey with young people in the past 10 years in the Philippines and in Kenya. My homeland, Mindanao, in the Philippines, has experienced peace and stability after the peace agreement was signed in 2014. However, we are now facing emerging challenges from extreme storms and flooding due to climate change, which disrupt our peace and human development outcomes. In late October 2022, I experienced the destruction of extreme flooding in my community. On the third day of the flooding, and when the water was subsiding, there were tilapia fishes swimming in our living room. At that time, I can't stop laughing, despite having my apartment in a complete mess. For days, we were immobilized to do emergency response because we were affected by the flood. Last year, and closer to here, a similar incident of severe flooding disrupted the lives of many residents, including young people in Asheville and its surrounding communities. Carolyn Hickman, a climate psychology professor in England, conducted a study among 10,000 youth in 10 countries, including the US and the Philippines, and reported most youth are extremely climate anxious. And majority said that the future is frightening. Unfortunately, the impacts of climate change are hurting many vulnerable communities and making young people mistrust institutions. These are examples of climate and environmental injustice. In the book Not Too Late, Rebecca and Thelma gathered different voices, including young peoples, to invite even the most despairing among us and lead us out of the climate crisis to climate hope. Indeed, young people are leading in co-creating stories of possibilities, despite most of our inaction. First, I remembered young Filipinos in my hometown having a peaceful protest of our inaction on climate injustice after the destructive flooding in 2022. Also, they raised funds and volunteered in our affected communities. In fact, I have worked with many of them. I supported them to take part in co-designing programs and public financing for youth and child welfare in local governments in the Philippines. Marinelle, a young Filipina survivor of a destructive storm in 2013, took her activism in international negotiations like the United Nations Climate Conference. Her voice, together with other young leaders, has contributed to the establishment of the UN Loss and Damage Fund that supports communities impacted by climate change. Like Marinelle, I have mentored young women leaders in the Philippines who are active in social protection, education in emergencies, and youth-led climate actions. Many of these young women leaders are from minority groups like Muslim and indigenous communities. Closer to the Philippines, the Pacific Island students fighting climate change collectively pushed the Vanuatu government to seek the advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice to define the legal obligations of countries to take climate action. And ICJ had its first public hearing in December 2024. Indeed, this community of young students is showing us that size does not matter to act for climate justice. Imali Musali is co-leading food security and climate actions in Kenya. Imali reminds me of the youth that I've worked with in Kibera, a community in Nairobi, Kenya. Whenever I visited them, I remembered the UN Security Office telling me to take extra care when I'm inside the community. Instead of fear, I felt protected, inspired, and learned from their community works. In the US, and not too far from here, young people of Warren County in North Carolina protested in 1982 the delivery of contaminated soil and operation of a toxic landfill in their community. Together with their neighbors, they gave birth to the environmental justice movement in America and provided us with a guide for intergenerational collective action. In this journey, I have committed to supporting young people to live dignified lives, have the agency, and co-create positive change in our society. Today, I am grateful to the Rotary for supporting my academic advancement. While learning at the Sanford School of Public Policy, I took courses at the Duke-UNC School of the Environment to expand my understanding of environmental justice. In our classroom discussions, I experienced being challenged to bring in my lived experiences and my multi-layered identities, like being an indigenous person from the Global South. Such experiences are intimidating and have shown my vulnerabilities. Yet I have found compassionate allies, encouraging me to pursue my passion for working with young people and for climate justice. Yet, as adults, how do we leverage the energy of young people to co-create stories of possibilities and co-design trusting and flourishing communities? In your next Rotary activity, may I suggest that you practice intergenerational collective approach of doing community works. In my indigenous culture, the need to work across generations is an ancient tradition that provides a collective platform to solve our societal problems. It is a philosophy rooted in Mother Nature and deep listening to young people. Intergenerational collaboration is not mutually exclusive to indigenous communities, but it is a practice that many of our communities, like the Rotary, value. Without any bias or position of power, we can co-create trusting and flourishing communities with young people by simply trusting their capabilities, deep listening to their aspirations, and inviting them into the tables as co-equal partners and co-learners. Finally, my work with young people has brought inspiration, happiness, and meaning into my life. I hope it does to you too. And before I end, I made a poem which form replicates the Japanese haiku. You know, I love the arts, working with young people. It's titled Grateful. Welcome home, Patrick, says Patricia and Ralph Haynes. Thank you, caring host. I cried, learned empathy. Admay, Carolyn, Susan, thank you, colleagues. Tearful and joyful, I'll miss the hugs and smiles. Thank you, dear fellows. Duke and UNC, you're always in my heart. Thank you, family. I felt vulnerable. This experience changed my life. Thank you, Rotary.